and welcome to Physical Therapy, a movie podcast. We are here every week recommending movies and chatting about them. Movies in general, but also movies largely inspired by the world of physical media, of which we are all deeply obsessed. My name is Kurt.
And I'm Sam.
And I'm Bobby.
We're also joined by our producer, Kimberly. Good evening, Kim.
Hello.
Hi, Kim.
Hello.
If you're enjoying this podcast, please leave us a review or a comment. You can also find us on Instagram at PTMoviePod. We're glad you're here.
And we want more people to know about us.
And tell your friends if you like this show and you have people in your life who may also enjoy it.
Tell your moms, too.
Yeah, tell your moms.
My mom loves this show. Yours might, too.
Also, there are a lot of people out there who really care about physical media. They just need to stand up.
Stand up. We're here.
Yeah, we're here for you.
Bobby, we haven't seen you in a few weeks. We're so happy to have you.
I know. Welcome back.
How have you been, Bobby? How have you been?
I'm so happy to be back. I've missed my friends. I've been well. I haven't been very stationary, so...
On the move.
On the move, but I've still been able to enjoy movies here and there, and it's good to be back for a little while. But the summer's rolling. I mean, it's hot.
Yeah, this summer.
It's hot.
The summer is just crazy.
Sam has no shirt on.
We're here, man. We're melting.
This is an explicit episode.
Yeah.
Sam, do you have any clothing on? We can't see below your shirtless body.
I guess we'll never know.
We only know I'm wearing a top. We don't know anything else.
That's right. Your hairy tattoos looking real sweaty.
Thanks, Kim. Thank you. And that's it for me, everybody. I'll see y'all later.
On today's episode, we are at long last celebrating the 4K release from Paramount Pictures on the Paramount Presents line of Chinatown, which came out a few weeks ago in a 2-pack with the sequel to Chinatown on Blu-ray, The Two Jakes. But first, Bobby, what have you watched lately?
I saw a movie I've never seen from start to finish before. Pretty Woman.
Wow.
I've never, I've seen it all and I know the references and I've seen it all in bits and out of context, but I sat down and watched it from start to finish. I'm kind of going through this 90s, what happened the year I was born and what was set off.
Oh, that's fun.
Since then. So
cool.
It's been a little bit of that. And Pretty Woman was one of those movies that I never did a proper screening of because it was R-rated. Mm-hmm. And so it was never part of the real early canon of rom-coms like Sleepless in Seattle and, some of those other ones we were able to watch. Even When Harry Met Sally, I feel like we could watch before Pretty Woman.
Definitely.
Right?
Based on premise alone, I think.
I mean, yeah, Pretty Woman's pretty perverse. I mean, it is perverse. It's a perverse Cinderella story.
It is. It holds up so well.
It is so good.
It holds up so well. And Julia Roberts, you're like, oh, okay, I get it. You really are a star and you earned it.
Yeah. I'm
surprised that you had never seen it, Bobby, given that you are a true diehard fan for My Best Friend's Wedding.
Oh, I know. And I had seen bits of it on TV and I had seen all of it, but I had never seen it recently, certainly.
Okay.
In its entirety.
It's a great LA movie, too, which is fun.
Oh, yeah. Sam, have you seen Pretty Woman?
I feel similar to what you just said, where I'm not sure I've ever seen it from start to finish, but I feel like I know the references and its cultural significance.
Yeah, that's how I felt. And then I was like, I don't think I've actually watched this.
Sam, I think you would like it more than Steel Magnolias.
All right.
Oh, totally. It's so much better.
Way better.
Even though Gary Marshall isn't known for his artistic...
No.
But
that's why we love
Bride.
Gary.
Tell that to
but I love Runaway Bride. We love him.
Yeah.
He works hard for the money. R.I.P.
And an entertainer from beginning to end.
He knows how to use his stars. He knows his audience.
Princess Diaries is a favorite.
Of course. What a fun rewatch. Okay, what have you guys seen? Catch me up to speed. You talked about Harvey Keitel and his ding dong.
Yeah, we did for 2 hours.
I missed that. I was sad.
Yeah.
I recently watched a 1994 movie that I had gotten a Kino 4K of, sight unseen, called Nobody's Fool.
Oh, dude, I just bought that.
It came out recently. Which one is that?
It is Paul Newman.
Yeah.
Bruce Willis, Melanie Griffith, and a very small role for a young Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Oh, I have it in a Paul Newman collection, but I've never seen it.
Cool. It's like a kind of a man at the end of his, not at the end of his life, but in his twilight years, who is kind of coming to grips with who he is and who he's not, and primarily through kind of a reunion with his family. I loved it.
Okay.
I really had a delightful time with it. It's like an R-rated dramedy.
Oh, it's Robert Benton. And
Yes. Director of Kramer versus Kramer.
Yeah. And he Paul Newman, I think, was up for an Oscar for it. I've never seen it.
I really found it to be solid. Like something you would have rented in 1995 if you hadn't have been a child like I was.
It's like him with the baseball cap.
Yes.
The blue baseball cap. And he's like Paul Newman being so...
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
I kind of went in being like, why did I buy this?
Yeah, why did I buy it? Like, what?
It still had a slip sleeve, and I was like, well, someday this won't have a slip sleeve, and I'll wish I had bought it.
I cannot believe that I bought that movie with the exact same mindset as you.
Let's start a
Just
podcast.
It's in my shopping cart. I don't know if I'll pull the trigger considering I haven't seen it and I have copies of it.
But it's probably a good investment.
Kurt, I'm actually surprised you haven't opened. I had so many copies. I'm now like, I have so many copies of Nobody's Fool. I'm surprised you haven't opened one under my Christmas tree.
Under your Christmas tree? Wow.
Kurt,
I'm counting the days, Bobby, until Christmas.
It's Kurt's new favorite holiday is Bobby's Christmas.
Kurt's Christmas for one.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if people are looking for kind of an old-fashioned dramedy from the 90s, Nobody's Fool, I highly recommend. Pretty weird movie, but charming in its own way.
Anyone's welcome to come over and pull it out of my shame pile and watch it with me.
There you go.
An open invite.
We'll put your address in the description of this episode.
Yeah, we'll send it out. Send us a DM and I'll message you my address.
guys, the 90s are so appealing to people. Like watching a movie from 1994 with Paul Newman and the cast that you just described could be the tonic to what ails
America.
Everyone.
So let's remember there's a reason there's a 4K.
Oh my God.
I wonder often how abnormal it is, how badly I just want to watch movies from the 90s only.
Dude, I'm right there with you.
That's why I watch Pretty Woman.
Yeah.
And there's, a finite number, unfortunately.
Also, the thing about Nobody's Fool, which is just why Kino is the shit, is it just looks amazing. It was so gorgeous to watch.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So I do, speaking of Kino, and then I do want to ask Sam what he watched. But Kino, so I did a Amoeba run, and I got a Blu-ray of Diary of a Mad Housewife, which was released in 1970.
Okay.
It's by, I'd really never seen it or heard of it, but the gal in it, Snodgrass, I think is her last name, was up for an Oscar, and it's always cited as like a really important movie in the portrayal of female characters on screen. And it's quite riveting. And Frank Langella is in it. Very young Frank Langella. But it was a weird little find that Kino did on Blu-ray, I think, and DVD. It might be out of print now, but I snagged it and watched it and was very thankful. And the movie looked amazing.
Cool. Yeah, I'm looking at it. It looks like it is in print.
Oh, thank God.
Still. Who's Frank Perry, the director? Frank Perry. That's familiar.
He did another movie called, I think it's like Lisa and David, that was like came out maybe late 70s.
IMDb lists him strangely as a co-director with Sidney Pollack, but the film's poster doesn't, but he directed or co-directed at least The Swimmer.
Huh.
Oh, interesting.
Which is an excellent Burt Lancaster
good.
movie.
I've never seen it.
You've never seen that, Bobby?
No, I've never seen it. I'll have to watch it.
Put that at the top of your list,
It's
Bobby.
one of my favorite movies. Like,
Okay.
I love that movie.
I am aware of it.
Yeah.
I have not seen it, though. I'll watch it. Do you know what I have seen, though? Mommy Dearest, which he also directed.
Which I haven't seen yet, which is insane.
Oh, yeah. I haven't seen that either.
Yeah, someday you will probably.
Yes.
Let it come to you.
A true classic.
Okay, Sam, what have you seen or picked up?
I watched the Indicator release of Christine last night.
Carpenter?
Yeah, the John Carpenter.
Stephen King?
It's based on a Stephen King novel, 1983's Christine, the movie he does directly after The Thing.
Whoa.
And just before Starman, which is the only movie, not that he got nominated for an Oscar, but that he made that got nominated for an Oscar.
Starman is the Jeff Bridges one.
Yeah, he got nominated for Best Actor.
Yeah.
What a joke that is, that's the only movie he ever made that was nominated for anything.
Complete bullshit.
Oh, he's not a
so crazy
Academy favorite.
Yeah.
But that movie, Christine, I remember my dad always talked about it being one of the scariest books and movies he had ever seen. And he told me what the plot was. And as a child, I was like, that is the most terrifying concept. And I've never seen it.
What is the concept, Sam?
The concept is there's a car born and made that's just evil. It's just bad. It's an evil car, and it kind of...
What kind of car is it?
It's like a sedan.
It's a Chevy, I think, of some kind.
I want to say it's a Chevy.
Oh, excuse me. Okay, so it's a 58 Plymouth Fury.
Fury, with a name like that.
Yeah, I mean, who would have thought? They say it's possessed by hell itself. But yeah, it's like a car that kind of goes bad and kind of like picks like a person to fall in love with it, or like it to fall in love with them. And then there's a very symbiotic relationship between the two of them, where Arnie, the kid who falls in love with Christine, ultimately, Christine falls in love with him, and they basically get even with all the people who have been bullying Arnie, because he's like a traditional nerd, like tape on glasses fucking nerd. I've seen this movie many times. It had been in my shame pile for a while because I had just bought it and never watched it. But what's cool about this movie is that it is the first Spine number on an Indicator release. So it is their first release. Yes.
Cool.
And their website, which is so awesome. I mean, it's so awesome for people who care about this type of nerdy shit. But they released this movie on October 24th, 2016. And then they put the out of print date on it for the limited edition one. So it went out of print in September 17. And then they released just a regular edition around the same time it went out of print. The limited edition went out of print. And it's just cool that they put that on there.
Where'd you get that? Music Millennium?
Got it from Music Millennium at one point. Music Millennium has honestly great prices on Indicator releases. So I got it for like $15 new.
Hell yeah.
It is the first time that I liked this movie.
Okay, cool.
I've seen this movie probably 4 times, and it's the first time that it worked for me.
Why did it work this time without too many spoilers or details?
Yeah.
I was, this is 1983 John Carpenter. He's just made The Thing. The Fog is right before that. Halloween is right before that. I mean, he is knocking them out of the park. And I got to this point where I was like, how do I not like the John Carpenter movie that is based on a Stephen King novel right at the height of him crushing it? I think I went into it with that thought, and I kind of was like, also, let's turn my brain off and see if I can just like get behind the fact that this is a car possessed by hell, which is so silly and dumb. I went in with that mindset, and I really just had a good time with it. I saw John Carpenter live when he was touring with his band playing music, and they played the Christine theme, and they had a screen behind them projecting a lot of just like cool stuff from his movies. While they were playing the Christine theme, they had the scenes of the car putting itself back together in the movie. And I was so kind of blown away seeing those on a giant screen that I was like, okay, I think I need to give Christine another chance. And it's taken me a minute to get there, but I'm really happy it did. And I'm really happy I liked it as much as I did, because I really had a good time with it. It is weird though, because it doesn't look like the rest of his movies from that era. It was not shot by Dean Cundey, which is part of it. The Carpenter score does not come in till about 37 minutes into the movie. But what's interesting about it is the exact same title screen or credit screen as The Thing. It is black with the same font and like pure white. And I'm now really interested because I can't remember what the credits of Escape from New York look like, which is right before The Thing, and then Starman, which is right after it. I'm interested to see if they are the same.
I definitely ordered the 4K of this while you were just talking, because I really want to see it. And there is a 4K from Sony that's
cool. Okay.
Very, very well reviewed.
Do you not? I thought you bought the Indicator when you were out here last.
You told me it sucked.
Wow.
I was like, I want this. This sounds awesome. And you're like, that movie sucks.
Well, I really liked it this time. It's crazy how we mature, is it not?
Okay. Chinatown Chinatown. There's nothing left to be said about Chinatown probably that hasn't already been said. This is one of the most kind of celebrated and famous movies, American movies of all time, certainly from the new Hollywood era of the 70s. I'm curious, just starting off with you two, what is your kind of relationship with Chinatown? Is this a movie you love or grew up watching?
Yes, and yes.
Tell us about it, Bobby.
I flagged this movie pretty early on in my, journey to consume all the essentials. So I was probably in middle school when I found a DVD copy of this. It was AFI listed top 100 movies pretty high. It was up for Oscars. It was kind of part of the cinematic language. So I saw it and I thought it was good. It was stylistic. I loved the music, the heightened melodrama and performance. Like when it was super exciting, I liked it. Otherwise, I thought it was kind of boring. Mm-hmm. But I also didn't understand the genre or the specificities of Los Angeles and its history. So for me, it's a movie that I've revisited over and over and over. And of course, now I just adore it and love it.
Yeah, I watched this young at my friend Ian's house, but to what Bobby was just saying, we both found it kind of boring. We didn't really understand it. I remember being young and thinking that the nose cut was brutal, and it is brutal, but just that was what I remembered from it the most. And so I don't think I revisited this movie till college or maybe slightly after.
Okay.
I mean, watching it the other night, it's just the best. It's so good.
My story's similar. I think I saw it in high school probably, and I don't know when it finally kind of got its hooks in me, but it hasn't been that long. It was really in my 20s, I think, that I kind of was revisiting it kind of eagerly and wanting to understand what was going on more.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually one day I just feel like I woke up and it was like my favorite movie. I think a lot of it actually had to do with, I was so obsessed with David Fincher. I am so obsessed with David Fincher, and it's featured on this recent release, but the previous Blu-ray release of Chinatown, which came out, I don't know, 10 years ago, featured a director commentary or an audio commentary track for the entire film that's David Fincher and Chinatown's screenwriter Robert Towne sitting together and watching the movie and having a conversation. And I think Fincher's appreciation for it really got me excited to kind of watch it over and over again.
Has Robert Towne written a Fincher movie? They just seem to be very buddy-buddy.
Well, it's a good question, and I don't think so, but they did collaborate on a miniseries about Jake Gittes, the protagonist of Chinatown, that it's a prequel that takes place in Chinatown and during his time in Chinatown, which he just recently did an interview, Robert Towne, prior to his passing, which happened last week.
Yeah.
Robert Towne,
R.I.P.,
the screenwriter, and he talks about this project and how it's sort of just in limbo. I think it was maybe commissioned by Netflix, but I don't believe, at least publicly currently, there are official kind of plans to produce it.
But for what we know, it is like a completed script, or series of scripts,
as far as I know.
Cool.
Chinatown, I'll do my best here. I've seen this movie enough times to basically know what's going on, but it is a pretty dense story. It's
so plot heavy, really, but that's not really
exactly.
Yeah.
But they dole it out in such a way that it doesn't feel like, I mean, it is confusing. And I think you're right, Kurt. Like, we will do our best to break it down, but it doesn't ever feel like just plot for no reason.
And it's so well constructed that the gravity of it feels real, and it makes the characters feel real. And therefore the themes of Chinatown can exist kind of on the shoulders of such an epic, authentic story, I guess, that they shine in a way that I think most movies don't. And that's why I love Chinatown, is like the feelings and the themes that it is really about. It doesn't, it's kind of like the plot is, for lack of a better word, like the MacGuffin on some level, like if in order to deliver on those feelings, in my opinion, at least. This movie is directed by Roman Polanski. It stars Jack Nicholson, Faye Dunaway, and John Huston, and was written by the late, great Robert Towne. And it came out in 1974. and takes place in the late 30s in Los Angeles. Essentially, the movie follows Jack Nicholson's character,
Mr. Geddes.
Mr. Gitz.
Mr. Geddes.
Jake Gittes, a private eye who is a former LAPD officer, as he is trying to kind of uncover corruption surrounding water in Los Angeles and how the city gets its water, how the valley, specifically the San Fernando Valley, gets its water, and the people in charge of those decisions sort of taking advantage of people and their property, all the while kind of interfacing with Faye Dunaway's character, whose father is kind of a prime figure in this possible corruption.
And she was married to his business partner who was found dead.
Exactly. She has what seems to be many secrets. And, it's sort of just a neo-noir throwback on some level to that type of genre, film noir from, the 40s.
One of my favorite things about watching this movie to that point is that you're watching a late 30s noir movie through a 70s lens. It always throws me because it feels so much older than it actually is.
Yes.
It's definitely a period piece. And I think that was something I didn't get when I was younger, because it was just an old movie. They're performing this, throwback piece, period piece, which is really fun and beautiful.
Yeah, some of it feels sort of throwbacky, like the titles do, the music does, but it doesn't really look old-fashioned necessarily. Like it feels
looks like a 70s movie. Yeah. I think thematically it feels like a 70s movie as well.
Absolutely. I mean, this movie is ultimately about America and the futility of power and fairness and corruption. And Roman Polanski, is not an American. He's Polish and
persona non grata
in many, many ways. I mean, we don't need to get too deep into Roman Polanski, but for anyone who doesn't know, he is essentially flown the United States and is a wanted man for sex crimes, essentially, in the 70s.
But continues to make movies.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane.
That are very well received.
He won Best Director in the 90s for The Pianist, but certainly a controversial figure. But it has this sort of outsider perspective on America and has a very, very dark one. And it's a famous sort of story in that, this is one of the most celebrated screenplays of all time, and Robert Towne is one of the most celebrated screenwriters of all time. But Chinatown has a legendary ending, one of the greatest endings ever. And it was completely Polanski's idea. They fought about it. It was not the way the script ended.
Damn, is that true?
Yeah. And I think one of the things about Chinatown that's kind of often talked about around the movie, there was just this great book 4 years ago, I think, at this point, called The Big Goodbye by Sam Wasson. And, a lot of what that book is about is kind of the major talent that assembled to make Chinatown, the four kind of figureheads of it, Jack Nicholson, Robert Towne, Roman Polanski, and the film's producer, who was also the head of Paramount at that time, Robert Evans. This movie meant so much to each of them to have it be great. And I think they all brought such unique kind of parts of their personalities to the film that the combination, I think, of like Robert Towne and also a foreign kind of perspective from Polanski with Robert Evans shepherding it and kind of protecting it as it went, allowed it to become...
It was a studio picture.
Studio picture, but like unfucked with in a way that is so rare, and coming from those such talented people, it's kind of one of a kind.
Yeah, lightning in a bottle. It is interesting because it being a Paramount movie, I remember one of the things I was particularly concerned about was the Oscars and which movies won in certain years and, which movies were better or whatever. And so that was like an early internal debate I had. And it came out the same year as Godfather Part 2, which also was backed by Paramount. Both of these great movies. How do you pick one over the other? It's just interesting that both of these things happened simultaneously and within the same kind of edifice is kind of amazing.
I can't imagine Chinatown and The Godfather Part 2 coming out in the same year.
Yeah, I know.
Well, wasn't Robert Evans very involved with Godfather as well?
Yes.
I think he was, yeah.
I think he feuded quite a lot with Coppola.
I think it was like a harder thing.
And so is Robert Towne. Robert Towne is famous, I think, for writing the scene in Godfather 1 the kind of conversation between Pacino and Marlon Brando, kind of out behind the house near the end. Basically did rewrites, punch-ups.
Is there a screenwriter in the history of screenwriting who has more uncredited credits on their IMDb? He seemed to punch up pretty much everything.
I did rewatch Shampoo recently. Have you seen Shampoo?
Yes.
That's a fun one.
Excellent.
Around the same time.
Yep. One of the things about Chinatown that is so basic, but speaks to me so deeply is the score by my favorite composer, Jerry Goldsmith. This is why he's my favorite composer, I think, on some level. It has a kind of trumpet-led brass score that includes a love theme that it just penetrates you.
It's so good.
Wow, you were so good with your words there.
Too graphic? Too graphic?
No, I liked it. Keep it.
And famously, the score was replaced at the last second, and the composer rather. And Jerry Goldsmith completed this just iconic all-time film score in apparently like 11 days or something.
Wow.
And it's one of those things where it's like, would I like Chinatown if it didn't have this score? I don't know. Would anyone like Chinatown the way they do without this haunting, transportive...
It was the entry point for me.
Yeah.
It is. It's such a kind of heavy-handed score, but mixed in with the rest of the movie, it plays so well and doesn't really feel heavy-handed. But when you think about it outside of the movie, it's a bit silly, really.
Well, I think it's right on the edge of like it being a little too gimmicky or something for the throwback nature of the story and the setting and the film noir of it all, especially when the titles at the opening have an old-fashioned look to them.
The logo is the Paramount 40, like the logo of Paramount from the 40s.
Yes, exactly. However, it's so emotional that it works. I think it's timeless, and it just creates this, is this movie from the 30s? Is this movie from the 70s in the best way?
Yeah, and the performances are so, in the hands of Roman Polanski, the Jack Nicholson and the Faye Dunaway roles is some of their best work by far.
Without a doubt. This is really what made me fall in love with Faye Dunaway when I first saw it, or I guess after I kind of started to realize what the movie was about and everything. She's really next level, knocks it out of the park.
She's so striking in this. She's so beautiful in those costumes and her hair.
The production design, the costume design.
The cinematography and the locations. Like, it's just, everything's really thought out. Every detail, every frame.
One of the cool things of what we're talking about, how it's this late 30s movie that's shot in the 70s, is that it doesn't suffer from a lot of studio movies of the 30s and 40s where a lot was done on backlots. There was little to no location shooting. Whereas this, if they are backlots, they look incredible. But I think a lot of it's just locations.
It's mainly location, yeah.
It just adds such a realistic and real world feeling to the movie, even though you're looking at a version of LA that we've never seen.
Yeah, and the one scene that I always think about with this movie is that sunset when they're driving, that purple sky.
It's so good.
It is so gorgeous, and it looked amazing on this 4K.
There's just the attention to detail in it is top notch, and it feels real. It's heightened, obviously. It's a movie, but you believe in what you're watching. And I mentioned earlier, but the themes of futility and the past, it's haunting. And it's haunting in a way that I think is, like, I genuinely mean that. And I think Polanski can do that. I think that Rosemary's Baby is haunting and frightening in a way that is beyond most movies.
It's mood. There's a menacing element to, there's an undercurrent of like misgivings where you're like, something's off. I'm suspicious.
Roman Polanski has a menacing view of LA.
Yeah,
for many reasons.
And the world. Roman Polanski, both of his parents, certainly his mother, were killed in the Holocaust.
Yeah, she died in Auschwitz, I believe. It's hard because it's like, this dude is like a giant pile of garbage who just happened to have talent,
Yes, but
like Woody Allen.
Speaking on his worldview.
Yeah, sure.
His parents were killed in the Holocaust and his wife was murdered by the Manson family while pregnant.
Yes.
He's a pop culture. He's so woven into LA too.
Yes. So his outlook on darkness can be translated on screen in a way that I don't know if anybody else can do it quite like him. And it's maybe no better represented than Chinatown.
I actually fully agree. I mean, especially with the idea that this movie definitely has with how power corrupts and changes you. I think these are like huge things that he put a lot of himself into, honestly.
And the feeling of powerlessness to corrupt power.
Yes.
We watched it, a couple nights ago, and just with what's going on now, what will be going on.
Yeah.
Next time I watch Chinatown, it hits the same and harder every time.
You walk away with just a darker, sadder view of, it's really misanthropic, but it's also like, oh, it's not over. Like, it still haunts me. Everything that I'm like, all the tragedy and all that shit, it continues. And now I just know a little bit more, and it makes me feel ickier.
Mm-hmm.
So head on over to Amazon.com and Sam, what else hit you about this release or the movie itself?
Well, it had been a minute since I'd seen it, so I kind of remembered some of the main story beats, but I just forgot how much of a fucking ripper it is. At even 2 hours and 10 minutes, it just moves. And I mean, to your point about the music, that helps it along, but it's really just great performances in a noir movie, and we just don't get stuff like this anymore. And I know that we say that a lot on this show, but this 4K from Paramount Presents looks incredible. It looks incredible. Everything looks so tangible and vivid and colorful. It really just looks awesome. I just forgot how great it was to watch really good actors. And this sounds so silly to say out loud, but to watch really good actors saying well thought out and good dialogue.
Such a good dialogue.
Maybe some of the best ever.
Without a doubt. And it can be a little confusing at times, but as you said earlier, Kurt, like the plot is almost the MacGuffin of the movie.
Yeah, it just sets the stage for us to be able to feel what it makes you feel, which is maybe his plot in general, but in Chinatown, it works.
It just doesn't seem like the care that went into making a movie like this is in a lot of movies these days. And that's kind of a bummer. I left the theater after seeing Maxine, and shout out to the Hollywood. They had Maxine on 35 millimeter, which was cool.
That's how we saw it too.
Oh, fun.
The Vista.
Nice. I came home and it was a little bit later and I was still packing, and I said, fuck it. I'm going to throw on the first hour of Chinatown. I'll watch the second hour after work tomorrow. And I paused it almost at exactly an hour because I needed to use the bathroom. And I was like, I'm not turning this fucking movie off right now.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. Can I just turn this off and go to bed?
Mm-hmm.
Even knowing how it's going to end, it pulls you in a way that just feels so engaging.
I've been listening to some interviews with Sam Wasson since having watched the movie again the other night. And I'm just like listening to these interviews going, damn, am I watching Chinatown tonight? Like, yeah, I'm ready for it already, Excellent looking 4K from Paramount Presents, and it is packed with special features, a lot of which are legacy, but there are several new ones, one of which is a nice interview with Sam Wasson, who I mentioned, having written the book about the making of the film. But there's interviews with Jack Nicholson and Polanski and Robert Towne. Most of those are from, I think, probably a DVD or early Blu-ray release of the movie. But there's so many stories from behind the scenes of these giant personalities. Anything, Bobby, from the special features that...
Paramount has done a really good job pulling their legacy content along throughout the years, because so much of this with a studio or with a film, it can get kind of lost when distribution rights shift, but they've, rightly so, kind of always accumulated their archival like EPK and interviews that are, these are retrospective conversations from all these different releases that are really nice to have, especially now that so many of these figures aren't present to talk about the movie at their 70th anniversary or what have you. What do you think of the inclusion of the two Jakes? Have either of you seen that movie?
I didn't have time to watch it, unfortunately.
I watched it.
Have you seen it before?
No, have you?
Yeah, like a long, long time ago. Because it's directed by Jack Nicholson.
Yes. So this is 1990. It is a sequel to Chinatown, which catches up essentially with Jake Gittes in 1948. I think it takes place in late 40s Los Angeles. He has since served in World War II and is still actively a private investigator. It went through kind of a turmoil to get started. I believe it was originally supposed to happen in the 80s and was set to be directed by Robert Towne. And yes, it's called The Two Jakes. In the version that exists, it's obviously Jack Nicholson as Jake Gittes, and then another character named Jake, who is played by Harvey Keitel.
Oh.
No dong is hung, Sam.
Damn.
But he does do his cry, which I was trying to be very respectful of while watching this and not laugh about our stupid podcast. But originally, when Robert Towne was set to direct this, Robert Evans wanted to play the other Jake.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
His vanity is so...
It's something to
it's
behold.
so visible.
Yeah. And I believe, at least according to the internet, Towne had to fire him. And I don't think they spoke again for at least a decade. And I'm not sure if they ever really reunited or not. I don't know. But
Why aren't we having this conversation in the tabloids? Like, did they reconcile?
exactly.
Upon...
It's probably out there. It's probably pretty
Like,
easy to find.
Robert Evans died, I think, like a decade ago, maybe, right? They both lived a long time.
They
Yeah,
did.
2019, right before, not even.
Yep.
I wonder if they reconcile. I think the inclusion of the movie is really fun for this release, just because it is still so many of the key players, even though it had this really bumpy
Yeah.
timeline. Like Robert Towne,
He wrote the script.
he wrote the script. Like, it's still, of course it's not as good. It was they were on the wrong foot right from the start. So
Yeah. It was rough. I thought it was rough. I thought it was a mess.
yeah, it's not good.
No.
Fun to see it finally,
Sure.
I had a similar thing, we talked about Godfather Part 3 on a recent episode where I finally decided to watch that, and it was something I was never that interested in seeing and ended up really liking. This was what I was afraid Godfather 3 would be.
Got it.
Yeah, Godfather 3, is so much better.
Yeah. But I agree completely. It's fun to have it in here. I think it's a really cool little bonus disc idea.
I love that the packaging, though, is just the Chinatown packaging.
I know. They're like, yeah.
Like, we'll brush it under the rug. But I like a complete set. I think that it is cool it's on there. But I am so happy it doesn't say
Yes.
Chinatown /
I'd be so pissed if it said
Yes.
2 film collection,
Yeah.
and then like a big diagonal split with the 2 posters blended. Ugh.
As we mentioned before, it's Paramount Presents, which put out Primal Fear that we did earlier on the show.
Correct.
In terms of spine numbers, is this the next movie after Primal Fear from Paramount Presents?
I don't know.
This is number 45. I can't remember what Primal Fear is, and I believe it's packed.
Wait, they number them?
Yeah, a lot of companies do.
Can you explain this to the people?
Keep us grounded, Kim. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm like, what the hell are you talking about?
A lot of companies have spine numbers or catalog numbers. So I mentioned earlier that the indicator release of Christine that I watched has a number 1 on its spine,
Okay,
signaling that this is the first release on the indicator label.
got it.
So Chinatown has a 45 on its spine, meaning it's the 45th movie Paramount Presents has put out.
Primal Fear is 43.
Ooh, do we know what 44 is?
No, I don't know what 44 is. But yes, many boutique labels do number their spines, Criterion being an example. I'll be honest, I don't look at them. I can't.
I can't. I
You can't
don't care.
I
have
can't
that
welcome that
added.
kind of...
Yeah.
It's like
Oh my
there are
God.
thousands. I'm not going to be ambitious enough to need full lines. I have a couple of like 1 to 10, 1 to 20 even in some release sets, but that's rare.
It's a slippery slope.
It's a slippery slope.
If you're out there and you have a collection that is organized by number, shout out to you.
Yeah, I bet there's a few.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
gotta be.
Leave a comment. Write us back. Tell us about it.
Should we talk about how Faye Dunaway wouldn't flush her own toilet on the set of this movie?
Wait, what?
Yeah, it's been a minute since I've read that book, but I do believe that there was controversy over Faye Dunaway not flushing her toilet in her trailer in order to, wreak havoc on set. And
Yeah, I hear she's a terror, but
yeah.
Wow.
Kimberly, when is the first time you saw this movie?
It was pretty early. I think my dad showed us when we were like in 5th or 6th grade.
Damn. He's like, here, girls, sit down. We're going to learn about regret.
Yeah, and I remember watching it and loving it. But man, that ending, I like remember having a like interview with my parents about it. It really haunted and shook me. And every time I rewatch it, I like have tears come to my eyes. I mean, it's just the most upsetting ending, but also so crazy and beautiful and dark. Noir is like my favorite genre, as you guys know, but it really got me into Raymond Chandler and like kind of digging into that world. It was like my first, I mean, I watched a lot of 40s movies growing up, but it was the first movie that I was like, whoa, okay, this is a whole place to be in, and I really love it.
I'm jealous you got to see it so young.
Yeah, it was a big one.
It must have really rounded out your like understanding of noir at that age, because you did know so much about it.
Yeah.
So it must have just been such a cornerstone to you understanding and enjoying it.
Well, I remember Kurt and I were kind of talking about this when we watched The Two Jakes last night. Like the 90s had this sort of strange fascination like with Dick Tracy and like a bunch of other movies that like kind of did these throwback 40s noir gumshoe kind of things. And they're very silly. But I feel like Chinatown, I mean, as we have talked about, it's just, it nails it in every way. It really feels like it could live in like the canon of a Raymond Chandler bogey call kind of world. So it's very special.
There you go. Chinatown. If you haven't seen Chinatown in the last 10 minutes, I highly recommend watching Chinatown. And if you're a fan of this movie, it's never looked better.
Yeah, buy this new edition. It's really, really great.
Okay, before we go, it's time to put out wishes into the physical media universe for titles to be released on formats for the first time. Are you ready? Is anyone ready?
I'm ready, man.
Ready.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Yes.
I wish for The River Wild on 4K, probably from Kino.
I wish for The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford on 4K.
I wish for a Criterion Blu-ray release of The Butcher. Sam.
This is the one I talked about last episode that I was like, Kurt, I'm always scared you're going to take it before I can.
I was hoping it was River Wild. Just trying to get you.
The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford, incredible movie, would look incredible on 4K.
The great Roger Deakins.
Yeah. The less great Andrew Dominic directing. I would love if somebody put this out, they could do the theatrical cut. And then there's apparently like a 4.5 hour cut of this movie that Roger Deakins has hinted at one time.
Oh, wow.
I don't think it will ever see the light of day, but hot damn, how great would that be?
Cool. Yeah, this was a big one in college.
Yeah.
For
you and I both.
and I'm sure yourself. Yeah.
The title kind of says it all, but it's much more of a study and meditation on the Western than it is a straight Western.
Did you say the cast?
I mean, who's not in this movie? It's Brad Pitt, Casey Affleck, Sam Elliott, Garrett Dillahunt,
Jeremy Renner.
Everyone's in this.
Mary Louise Parker. That's what I'm thinking of.
Yes. Yeah. Totally.
Ricky Jay and Zooey Deschanel. Great choice, Sam. One of my first Blu-rays.
Mine too, honestly.
Me too as well.
Hell yeah. I still have this Blu-ray.
I had it on DVD and I really loved it, but the Blu-ray, I remember it was one of the earlier Warner Brothers ones. It was real sturdy, good paper, smelled nice.
I remember getting an HD TV for the first time, getting that movie, and just like my eyes melting during this shot from Assassination of Jesse James, where, did we say Sam Rockwell?
Oh God, I don't even think we said
Sam
that.
Rockwell and Brad Pitt are standing on a frozen lake, and there's like these huge snow-capped mountains behind them and all these pine trees, and it's this really wide shot, and Brad Pitt at least is wearing like the Revenant style fur coat with a little bowler hat, and he's depressed, I think, and he's standing on top of this ice shooting through it at fish, and he just looks over at Sam Rock. He doesn't even look at him. I don't think. He's just like shooting into the ice, and he just says, "You ever consider suicide?" And it's like the craziest moment.
Yeah, it's great. It's an extremely underrated movie.
Kurt, you picked
The River Wild.
I love it.
Come on, so good.
It's so good. It's another 90s classic.
Yep, 1994, directed by Curtis Hanson, starring Meryl Streep, Kevin Bacon, and David Strathairn,
John C. Reilly,
Benjamin Bratt. It's about a family trying to repair relationships by taking a family trip whitewater rafting in where, Montana?
Yeah, it was definitely shot in Montana if it doesn't take place in it.
Who get essentially their boat hijacked by some fugitives on the run from a violent crime. The big bad of this little group is Kevin Bacon. And it's just a thrilling action movie that takes place down a turbulent river.
Like Deliverance, but not as...
Yeah.
Not as... Yes.
Exactly. That's probably how they pitched it.
But not as the...
The first time I ever stayed up till midnight in my life was watching this movie.
Amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Perfect.
What a moment.
Did you rent it? Was it on TV?
Yeah.
Okay.
My mom, I believe Ben, my older brother, was having a sleepover, and my mom rented this for them. And I got to stay up till... I remember looking at the clock, turning to midnight, and just being like, whoa. But anyway, yeah.
I'm still here.
The River Wild is just a banging 90s action thriller.
It looks good too. Like it's well
it's beautiful.
shot.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's well edited. Like it's thrilling. Jerry Goldsmith.
Oh, my God. It's Jerry Goldsmith.
There you go, man.
It's every time.
Yeah.
I love him.
Such a good score, too. God, I love Jerry Goldsmith. Yeah, directed by the great Curtis Hanson, who did LA Confidential, 8 Mile,
Wonder Boys.
It was shot by Robert Elswit, who has basically done the majority of PTA's films.
Awesome. Bobby, what is The Butcher? I don't think I know that.
We were talking about what constitutes a slasher movie recently.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow I stumbled into this movie from the 70s by the great Claude Chabrol. He was one of the founding visionaries of the French New Wave. And he did what they say is like the first French New Wave, Le Beau Charge. He does a lot of Hitchcock riffs. He did The Cousins. These are all usually kept as French titles, and not all of them have found their way to the US as well as other films, but Criterion put out his early stuff, and then they just put out Le Cérémonie with Isabella Huppert, but it came out in 95, and it was like his 49th movie. So I went into a deep dive on this guy, and I looked at this movie, which is considered his best. And it's about a small town and the headmaster of a school and the butcher in town. And they start to form a friendship. And all of a sudden, there are these brutal murders happening throughout this town, and bodies are being found. And what unfolds is very strange and scary, but also it's just a great thriller.
Ooh, this sounds great.
Yeah, his movies are great. And I wish Criterion would do proper releases of more of his movies. That he makes like a movie or two every year.
Where were you able to watch it?
I got a DVD that's in print from, I don't even know the studio. It's US release, but it's very poor quality, and they put out a lot of his movies.
Okay.
I'm just hoping that someone picks up the slate that is missing proper restoration in the same way that The Ceremony is.
Cool.
Or had, rather. Definitely worth checking out this director and his movies.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Sold. Okay, that's it for another episode. Thank you all for listening. A big thank you to Patrick Laban for our music, as always. A big thank you to Kimberly for producing. Thank you, Sam.
Yeah, dog. Yeah, just happy to be here.
Bobby, we're so glad to have you tonight.
I'm so happy to have joined. Thank you for having me, and I'm sorry I was away.
Next week,
Find us.
we are looking to our shelves to recommend some of our personal favorite summer movies, whatever that might mean to us, summer movies. And we will be talking all about the brand new 4K release of Twister.
Hey.
We'll see you then.